Ryan and Lisa had never been the kind of people to take risks. At 42 and 40 years old, they lived a peaceful, predictable life in a luxurious home near the Colorado wilderness. Their days were filled with work, social gatherings, and cozy evenings by the fireplace. Wildlife was something they admired from afar, through the safety of their massive glass windows. But one winter night, everything changed. It started like any other evening. Lisa curled up on the couch with a book, while Ryan flipped through the channels. Their golden retriever, Buddy, lay near the door, occasionally lifting his head at the sound of wind howling outside. Then a strange noise. A low growl echoed from outside, so faint that at first Lisa thought she imagined it. But then came another sound. Scratch, thud, scratch. Buddy stood up, his ears alert. Lisa set her book down. Did you hear that? Ryan muted the TV. Silence. Then a heavier sound. A soft but firm thump against the door. Lisa's heartbeat quickened. Ryan, don't open it. But curiosity got the better of him. He grabbed his phone, walked cautiously to the entrance, and pulled the door open. A bobcat stood on their porch. Lisa gasped, her body freezing in place. The animal was larger than she expected, its golden fur thick and dusted with snow. But something was wrong. Its front leg hung at an odd angle, wounded. Blood stained the wooden porch beneath its paws. Yet the bobcat didn't growl or run. It simply stared at them. Ryan's mind raced. His instinct screamed at him to shut the door, call for help, do anything but stand there. But his body refused to move. The bobcat took one unsteady step forward. Lisa grabbed Ryan's arm. Ryan, what do we do? The answer should have been obvious. This was a wild animal. It belonged outside, in the wilderness where it came from. But something about the way it stood there, injured and vulnerable, felt different. It wasn't here to attack. It was asking for help. Ryan exhaled and stepped back. The bobcat hesitated. For a brief moment, it seemed to consider running. But then, with slow, careful movements, it limped inside their home. Lisa sucked a sharp breath. Her fingers dug into Ryan's arm as she whispered, "What are we doing?" The wild cat moved cautiously across the floor, sniffing the air. Then, without warning, it collapsed near the fireplace. Buddy, normally afraid of even the vacuum cleaner, didn't bark. He just stood there, his tail wagging slightly, as if sensing something Ryan and Lisa couldn't. The bobcat closed its eyes, its breathing slow but steady. Lisa swallowed hard. Ryan, we can't keep a bobcat in the house. Ryan rubbed his jaw. I know. But neither of them moved. For the first time in their carefully planned lives, they were facing something unpredictable. And deep down, they both knew this was only the beginning. The fire crackled softly, casting flickering shadows across the living room walls. Lisa's fingers tightened around her sweater as she stared at the wild animal lying just feet away. The bobcat's fur, matted and streaked with dirt, rose and fell with each slow breath. It was alive, but for how long? Ryan stood next to her, arms crossed, his face unreadable. The silence between them was thick with uncertainty. Ryan, Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible over the fire. We have to do something. Ryan exhaled slowly, rubbing his jaw. I know, but we have no idea how it'll react. Lisa's stomach twisted with anxiety. A bobcat inside their home. This wasn't normal. This wasn't safe. Yet, here it was, helpless, wounded, and trusting them. She took a cautious step closer. The bobcat's body remained still, but its ears twitched. It was aware of them, even if it was too weak to respond. Maybe we should call a wildlife rescue? Lisa suggested, glancing at Ryan. Ryan shook his head. They might take hours to get here. And if they think it's too injured to survive, they won't bother saving it. Lisa swallowed hard. The thought of the bobcat being euthanized made her uneasy. It had fought to get here. It wanted to survive. She sighed. All right, so what do we do? Ryan glanced at Buddy, their golden retriever, who was sitting a few feet away, ears perked and alert. Despite the natural instinct of the dog to be wary of wild predators, Buddy seemed more curious than scared. Ryan crouched beside the first aid kit he had retrieved. We clean the wound. We make sure it's not infected. Lisa hesitated. You're seriously suggesting we treat a wild bobcat? Ryan shot her a look. Do you have a better idea? Lisa didn't. She carefully knelt beside the bobcat, her heart pounding. Up close, she could see how exhausted it was. Its ribs were slightly visible beneath its tawny fur, its body thin but strong. The wound on its leg looked painful, a deep gash, likely from fight or a bad fall. Taking a deep breath, Lisa dipped a clean cloth into the bowl of warm water Ryan had brought. This was insane. But what choice did they have? Slowly, she reached forward. The second the damp cloth touched the bobcat's leg, its golden eyes snapped open. Lisa gasped, jerking her hand back. Her heart slammed against her ribs as she stumbled away. The bobcat didn't move. It didn't growl or swipe. It just stared. Ryan froze. Buddy stiffened but didn't bark. The fire crackled. The wind howled outside. Seconds stretched like hours. Then the bobcat blinked. Lisa exhaled shakily. It didn't attack. Ryan nodded slowly. It knows we're trying to help. Lisa hesitated, then reached out again, this time more carefully. The bobcat tensed but didn't resist as she gently dabbed the wound. It flinched at the sting, a low huff escaping its throat, but it didn't fight back. Lisa worked quickly, cleaning the gash as best as she could. Ryan handed her antiseptic, and she hesitated before dabbing it onto the wound. The bobcat twitched but remained still. Good, Ryan murmured. That's good. Lisa let out a breath. She hadn't realized she was holding. This was actually working. She wrapped a clean bandage around the wound, careful not to pull too tight. When she was done, she sat back on her heels. Ryan looked at the bobcat. It needs food. Lisa frowned. What do bobcats even eat? Ryan rubbed his neck. Small animals, mostly. Rabbits, rodents, birds. But we don't exactly have that lying around. Lisa stood and walked to the kitchen. She opened the fridge, scanning the contents. Raw meat? Chicken? She wasn't sure what was safe. She grabbed a small piece of uncooked chicken breast, cutting it into small chunks. Carefully, she placed the pieces on a plate and walked back to the living room. The bobcat's eyes flickered open again as the smell of food reached its nose. It lifted its head slightly, sniffing the air. Lisa gently pushed the plate closer. Here, she murmured. The bobcat hesitated, then slowly, cautiously, it stretched its neck forward and sniffed the chicken. A moment later, it took a tentative bite. Lisa and Ryan exchanged looks. It's eating, Ryan whispered. Lisa felt a strange sense of relief. The bobcat was still weak, but it wanted to live. Buddy wagged his tail, watching closely but keeping his distance. The fact that the dog hadn't reacted aggressively reassured Lisa. Ryan sat back, running a hand through his hair. What are we even doing, Lisa? Lisa sighed, leaning against the couch. Helping. Ryan let out a dry chuckle. You know this isn't normal, right? Lisa smirked. Since when has our life been normal? Ryan chuckled softly, shaking his head. Fair point. The bobcat finished the food, licking its lips before resting its head down again. It wasn't leaving. Lisa's expression softened. We should let it rest. Ryan nodded. Agreed. They dimmed the lights and sat on the couch, watching the fire. The bobcat lay curled up near the warmth, a wild predator inside their home, but somehow it felt right. Lisa pulled a blanket over her legs, stealing one last glance at their unexpected guest. Whatever tomorrow brought, they were in this now. Lisa woke up to the soft sound of breathing. For a moment, she was disoriented. The warmth of the fire had faded, leaving only a faint glow in the hearth. The early morning light filtered through the large windows, casting a golden hue over the wooden floor. As her eyes adjusted, she became aware of something unusual, a presence. She turned her head slightly and her breath hitched. The bobcat was still there, curled up near the fireplace, its golden fur barely rising and falling with each slow breath. It looked oddly at peace. Lisa blinked. She had half expected it to slip away in the middle of the night, but it hadn't. Ryan was already awake, sitting in the armchair across the room. His gaze was fixed on the animal, his fingers wrapped around a half-empty mug of coffee. The steam had stopped rising, a sign he had been sitting there for a while. He glanced at Lisa as she stirred. "Morning," he said quietly. Lisa stretched, trying to shake off the stiffness in her limbs. "Morning." Her eyes went back to the bobcat. It was awake now, watching them with calm but alert eyes. It had moved slightly in the night. Its injured leg was stretched out gingerly, the bandage still intact but slightly loose. Lisa could tell it was still in pain, though it made no sound. Ryan leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I didn't expect it to stay." Lisa exhaled. "Me neither." For a long moment, they just stared at the wild animal that had, somehow, become their house guest. Buddy, their golden retriever, stirred near the couch, stretching his legs and letting out a big yawn. The soft noise made the bobcat's ears twitch, but it didn't react aggressively. Buddy wagged his tail and trotted toward Lisa, nudging her hand with his nose. She scratched behind his ears, smiling absently. "You're handling this a lot better than I thought you would." Buddy's gaze drifted toward the bobcat. He sniffed the air, then sat down beside Lisa, his tail thumping softly against the floor. Lisa and Ryan exchanged glances. "This is weird, right?" Lisa asked. Ryan let out a small chuckle. "Extremely." She hesitated, then slid off the couch onto the floor, moving just a little closer to the bobcat. It tensed slightly but didn't move away. Lisa stayed still. Too much movement could make it feel cornered. "Hey there," she murmured softly. The bobcat blinked. Ryan was watching intently. "I think it trusts us." Lisa nodded. "It must, or it wouldn't have stayed." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, exhaling. "This is crazy." Lisa grinned. "A little." Ryan stood and stretched. "I'll make coffee. You want some?" Lisa nodded absently, her attention still fixed on the animal. The bobcat's gaze flicked toward Ryan as he walked toward the kitchen, but made no move to follow or flee. Lisa tilted her head slightly. "Do you want to eat?" she asked softly, not really expecting an answer. But to her surprise, the bobcat twitched its ears forward. As if it understood, Lisa blinked. She turned her head toward the kitchen. "Ryan, do we have more chicken?" Ryan's voice called back. "Yeah, why?" Lisa looked at the bobcat. "I think it's hungry again." A few minutes later, Ryan returned with a plate of raw chicken pieces. He set it on the floor, keeping a safe distance. The bobcat lifted its head, nostrils flaring as it caught the scent. It hesitated for a moment, then slowly stretched forward and started to eat. Lisa and Ryan watched in silence. It was fascinating, watching a wild predator eat in their living room, its movements graceful and controlled. Buddy sat beside Lisa, watching curiously but making no attempt to steal the food. As the bobcat finished its meal, it licked its lips and let out a small, satisfied sigh. Then, to their astonishment, it relaxed completely, stretching out its body and resting its head between its paws. It wasn't just tolerating their presence anymore. It was comfortable. Lisa let out a breath. "I can't believe this." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "Me neither." They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Ryan finally spoke. "So what do we do now?" Lisa hesitated. "We let it stay." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Really?" She gestured toward the bobcat. "Look at it, Ryan. It's not trying to leave. It knows we're helping it." Ryan exhaled. "But it's still a wild animal." "I know." Lisa's voice was softer now. "But we can't just throw it out." Ryan stared at the bobcat for a long moment. Then he shook his head with a small, disbelieving chuckle. All right, he said. We let it stay. For now. Lisa smiled. The bobcat let out a small, almost content sigh, closing its eyes. Lisa's heart swelled with something unexpected. Excitement. This wasn't just a random encounter anymore. It was the start of something much bigger. Lisa sat on the couch, flipping through an old book, but her mind wasn't on the words. Instead, her gaze kept drifting toward the bobcat, now stretched out near the fireplace like it had always belonged there. The morning had passed peacefully, with Ryan working in his study and Buddy napping on the rug. But Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The bobcat was no longer just a wild animal seeking shelter. It had, in some unspoken way, become part of their home. She glanced toward the kitchen, where Ryan was preparing a quick lunch. You still think we're crazy? Ryan chuckled, shaking his head. Oh, absolutely. He placed a sandwich on a plate and walked over, sitting beside her. But you know what's even crazier? Lisa raised an eyebrow. Ryan gestured toward the bobcat. I'm starting to like having it around. Lisa smiled. Me too. The bobcat stretched lazily, its muscles rippling under its tawny fur, then yawned, a full, jaw-stretching yawn that showed sharp teeth but carried no threat. Lisa felt something stir inside her. It had been less than 48 hours since they had found the injured animal on their property. Yet in such a short time, their home had adjusted to its presence. Or maybe the bobcat had adjusted to them. By the third day, a routine had naturally formed. The bobcat, which Lisa had started calling Ash, short for Asher, meaning happy one, spent most of its time near the fireplace. It was still cautious but showed no signs of wanting to leave. Ryan, once skeptical, had started leaving out small portions of raw chicken and fresh water. He still kept his distance, but Lisa could tell he was intrigued. Meanwhile, Buddy had gone from mild curiosity to full-blown fascination. The golden retriever would sit near Ash, wagging his tail slowly, as if studying their unusual guest. Every now and then, Ash would glance at Buddy with an unreadable expression, but it never growled or showed signs of aggression. Lisa watched them from the kitchen one afternoon, shaking her head. "Would you look at that?" she muttered. Ryan followed her gaze. Buddy had laid down beside Ash, their backs barely touching. Ryan let out a low whistle. "That's something I never thought I'd see." Lisa grinned. "You think they'll be friends?" Ryan smirked. "I think Buddy already decided that for them." That night, as Lisa prepared for bed, she hesitated by the fireplace. Ash was still awake, its golden eyes reflecting the firelight. Lisa crouched down, keeping a respectful distance. "You getting comfortable here?" she asked softly. The bobcat flicked an ear but didn't move. Lisa hesitated. Then, slowly, she extended her hand, palm facing upward. She wasn't sure why she did it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was trust. Maybe, deep down, she wanted to see if the bobcat trusted her, too. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Ash lowered its head and sniffed her fingers. Lisa held her breath. The bobcat's whiskers twitched. It didn't retreat. It didn't bite. Instead, it just looked at her. And in that moment, Lisa knew Ash wasn't just tolerating them. It had accepted them. She slowly pulled her hand back and exhaled, a small smile forming. Ryan, watching from the doorway, crossed his arms. "So, do we officially have a bobcat now?" Lisa chuckled. "I think Ash made that decision for us." Ryan shook his head with amusement. "We're going to have some explaining to do if anyone finds out." Lisa grinned. "Then let's keep it our little secret." The next morning, Lisa woke up to an unusual sound, a low, deep growl. She shot up, heart pounding. The sound wasn't coming from outside. It was inside the house. She scrambled out of bed, rushing toward the living room. Ryan was already there, standing near the couch. His body was tense, eyes locked on the fireplace. Lisa followed his gaze, and her stomach dropped. Ash was standing now, hackles raised, its body tense like a coiled spring. Buddy stood across from the Bobcat, ears back, tail low. Something was wrong. Lisa barely had time to react before she noticed what had triggered the tension. A shadow moved outside the window. Her pulse quickened. Ryan, he saw it too. A large figure, a coyote, was prowling just beyond the glass, its yellow eyes locked onto their home. Ash let out another growl, deeper this time, more threatening. Lisa's throat tightened. Coyotes weren't uncommon in their area, but they usually kept their distance. This one, however, wasn't leaving. Ryan grabbed a flashlight from the counter and stepped forward. "Stay here," he told Lisa firmly. She grabbed his arm. "Be careful." Ryan nodded before opening the back door. He stepped outside, shining the light toward the trees. The coyote didn't move. Lisa's heart pounded. Why wasn't it running? Then, to her shock, Ash moved. The Bobcat stepped toward the open doorway, muscles tight, eyes locked on the coyote. For a long moment, the two wild animals just stared at each other. Then Ash let out a powerful, guttural snarl. The sound was primal, wild, a warning that even Lisa felt deep in her bones. The coyote hesitated. Then slowly it backed away. A second later, it turned and disappeared into the darkness. Lisa exhaled, realizing she had been holding her breath. Ryan stepped back inside, shutting the door behind him. "Well," he said, running a hand through his hair. "That was unexpected." Lisa looked at Ash, who was still standing near the door, its ears twitching. The Bobcat had protected them. It had protected their home. Ryan let out a breath. "I think we just crossed into completely new territory." Lisa nodded. "Yeah, I think we did." She crouched near Ash, watching it carefully. The Bobcat turned to her, its golden eyes steady and knowing. Lisa smiled softly. "You're not just a guest anymore, are you?" Ash didn't move, didn't blink, but Lisa already knew the answer. This wasn't just an animal passing through. This was family now. The encounter with the coyote changed everything. Lisa and Ryan had welcomed the Bobcat into their home out of compassion, but now it was clear Ash wasn't just seeking shelter. It was defending its territory, their home, their family, and that realization came with a weight neither of them had anticipated. The next morning, Lisa walked into the living room to find Ash lying in the sunlight, stretching out with absolute ease. For the first time, she realized the Bobcat wasn't just resting by the fireplace anymore. It had started roaming the house, moving as if it belonged. It was subtle at first, small things. The way Ash now sat near the dining table when they ate, watching with its piercing golden eyes. The way it brushed past Ryan's legs as he made coffee, an action shockingly close to affection. The way it followed Lisa when she moved from room to room, silent, watchful, present. And strangest of all, Buddy had accepted it completely. Lisa caught the golden retriever one afternoon curled up on the couch, his head resting against the Bobcat's side. She blinked. Was she dreaming? Ryan walked in and saw it too. He froze mid-step, rubbing his face. "Okay," he muttered. "This is officially the weirdest thing I've ever seen." Lisa laughed under her breath. "You and me both." Ryan shook his head, still staring at the two animals. "I don't even know what to say anymore." Lisa did. Ash had become part of their home in a way they never expected. But as much as it felt right, a nagging thought lurked in Lisa's mind. What happens next? That evening, Lisa was out on the porch when she heard the crunch of tires on gravel. A truck pulled into their driveway, and her stomach tightened. It was their closest neighbor, Mark Hensley, a man in his early 50s who had lived in the area for decades. Mark stepped out, adjusting his hat. "Evening, Lisa." She forced a smile. "Evening, Mark. What brings you by?" He leaned against the railing, squinting toward the house. "Saw some tracks near my property yesterday. Big ones." Lisa's heart skipped. "I figured it was a mountain lion at first, but then," he paused, looking at her closely. "Someone mentioned they saw a bobcat hanging around your place." Lisa felt her throat go dry. Someone had seen Ash. She forced herself to stay calm. Yeah, we've seen one around, she admitted. It's been injured. We've just been keeping an eye on it. Mark exhaled through his nose. You know, wild animals ain't pets. Lisa's hands clenched at her sides. Before she could respond, Ryan stepped out onto the porch. Everything all right? He asked, his tone polite but firm. Mark nodded. Just checking in. His gaze flickered between them before he sighed. You two are good folks. Just be careful. A bobcat might seem tame, but it's still wild. Lisa nodded, her face neutral. We understand. Mark lingered a moment before finally stepping off the porch. As he climbed back into his truck, Lisa could feel the unspoken words hanging in the air. As soon as he drove away, she turned to Ryan. We have a problem. Ryan rubbed his temples. Yeah, I got that. Lisa exhaled. What if someone reports Ash? What if... Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. We'll figure out. But Lisa wasn't so sure, because the more Ash stayed, the less it felt like just a wild animal, and the more it felt like family. That night, Lisa and Ryan had barely drifted off to sleep when a loud crash jolted them awake. Buddy barked furiously from the living room. Lisa bolted upright. What was that? Ryan was already throwing on his jacket. Stay here, he said instinctively. Lisa ignored him, following close behind as they rushed toward the noise. As soon as they entered the living room, Lisa's heart stopped. The back door was wide open, and Ash was gone. Buddy was standing near the threshold, barking into the darkness. Lisa's stomach twisted. Ryan grabbed the flashlight and shone outside. There! Lisa followed his beam and saw it. Ash, standing near the tree line, facing something in the shadows. Her pulse spiked. Something was out there. Then movement. Lisa barely had time to process it before a dark shape lunged forward. A second coyote. Ryan swore. Not again. Ash let out a deep, guttural snarl, the same fierce sound from before. But this time, the coyote didn't back down. It charged. Lisa's heart leaped to her throat. Ash! The bobcat moved like lightning. It sidestepped and struck, swift, precise, brutal. The coyote let out a yelp as Ash slashed across its muzzle. For a brief second, the wild animal hesitated, reeling back. And then, without warning, Ash lunged forward, driving it further into the woods. Ryan gripped Lisa's arm. We need to help. Lisa nodded, but before they could move, Ash reappeared. Panting, shoulders heaving, eyes sharp. The coyote was gone. Lisa exhaled a shaking breath. Ash. The bobcat didn't move. For a long moment, it simply stood there, illuminated by the porch light. Then, slowly, it turned and walked back inside, like it belonged, like it had never left. Lisa exchanged a look with Ryan, her heart pounding. They both knew the truth. Ash wasn't just a guest anymore. Ash had made a choice. The next morning, Lisa sat by the fireplace, sipping her coffee. Ash lay nearby, its breathing steady. Buddy sat close, as if keeping watch. Lisa ran a hand through her hair, trying to piece everything together. They had let a bobcat into their home out of kindness. They had kept it because of trust. But now, Ash had chosen them back. Ryan walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. So, what we do now? Lisa looked at Ash, this wild, untamed creature that had somehow become part of them. She smiled. We let it stay. Ryan sighed, shaking his head, but there was no protest. Because deep down they both knew this was Ash's home now, just as much as it was theirs. The morning after Ash defended their home from the coyote, Lisa sat by the fireplace, staring into the flickering flames. Ash lay nearby, tail curled around its paws, its golden eyes half-lidded but still alert. Buddy, their golden retriever, rested beside it. The two animals settled in a way that shouldn't have been possible, but was. Lisa felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, wonder, and something deeper. Love? She wasn't sure, but she knew one thing for certain. Ash wasn't just a visitor anymore. Ryan entered the room, rubbing his neck. He looked at Ash, then at Lisa. "So, what now?" Lisa sighed. That was the question, wasn't it? What happened next? Later that day, Lisa stood by the kitchen window, watching Ash stretch on the back porch. Ryan's voice broke her thoughts. "We need to talk." She turned to see him holding his phone, his face serious. Lisa's stomach dropped. "Who was it?" Ryan hesitated. "Mark." Lisa's grip tightened around her coffee mug. "What'd he say?" Ryan exhaled. "Someone reported seeing a bobcat on our property." Lisa's pulse spiked. "Who?" Ryan shook his head. "Doesn't matter. But the authorities might come to check things out." Lisa glanced toward Ash, who was now lazily grooming itself under the sun. Panic set in. Would they take Ash away? Would they force him to give it up? She felt Ryan's hand on her shoulder. "We need to decide," he said softly. "What's best for Ash?" Lisa swallowed hard. She knew keeping a wild animal in their home wasn't exactly normal. But Ash wasn't just a wild animal anymore. Ash was family. That evening, Lisa and Ryan sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the trees. Ash sat nearby, eyes flicking toward the rustling leaves, as wild as ever, yet somehow belonging. Lisa took a deep breath. "We can't keep Ash forever, can we?" Ryan hesitated. "I don't know. It feels wrong to send it back out there." Lisa's heart clenched. But what if keeping it is just as wrong? Ryan didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at Ash, who was staring back at them, almost as if it understood. Then he sighed. "Maybe we don't need to decide." Lisa frowned. "What do you mean?" Ryan gave a small smile. "What if we just let Ash decide?" Lisa's breath hitched. Could it really be that simple? For the next week, they left the doors open more often. They didn't call Ash inside. They didn't set food out for it. They just waited. Some days, Ash disappeared into the woods for hours. Other days, it stayed inside, curled up in its usual spot by the fireplace. Each time it left, Lisa held her breath, wondering, would this be the time Ash didn't come back? And then one night it happened. Lisa woke up to an eerie silence. She checked the living room. The fireplace crackled softly. Buddy was asleep, but Ash was gone. The door was slightly open. Her heart ached, but she didn't wake Ryan. Instead, she walked outside and stood in the cool night air. She didn't call out. She just waited, and when the morning light broke over the trees, Ash didn't return. The days passed. Lisa kept expecting to hear the soft padding of Ash's paws, to see those golden eyes watching her from a shadowed corner. But the bobcat didn't come back. Ryan wrapped an arm around her as they sat on the porch one evening. It made its choice. Lisa swallowed against the lump in her throat. "I know." And she did. Ash had chosen freedom. Lisa wiped her eyes. "Do you think it'll be okay?" Ryan smiled gently. "It survived before us. It'll survive after us." Lisa nodded, but deep inside, she wasn't sure this was the end. A month passed. Life settled back into routine. Morning coffee, long walks, quiet evenings by the fire. But something felt missing. Then, one morning, Buddy started barking at the back door. Lisa's heart skipped. She rushed to the window and froze. Ash was there, standing just beyond the tree line, watching. Not gone, not forgotten, just choosing to stay near. Lisa pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed. Ash hadn't left them. It had just found its own way to belong. She smiled, stepping onto the porch. She didn't call out. She didn't move. She just watched as Ash slowly, silently, blinked at her. And in that quiet moment, she knew their home would always be Ash's home too, no matter where it roamed.